of the meeting of June 2nd, 2015. Would you all please stand for the invocation, please?
Lord, we acknowledge your presence among us tonight, and we know you are always with us. Give us the wisdom to work in the best interest of everyone in our community. In your name we pray. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Here.
Sauer?
Here.
McBain?
Here.
Schleifer?
Here.
Challenger? Here. Simpson?
Here.
Blakeman?
Here.
Willard?
Here.
Blaisdell?
Here. We will receive the meeting minutes for May 19th. Are there any questions or comments to those? Not, they'll stand as presented. There will be a public hearing at 7:15 this evening in regards to amending Chapter 1294, Section 1260.35, definition of signs in the area of subsection A of the charter. Under reading communications, there's one proclamation this evening. Whereas staff, students, and parent volunteers from the Heartland Christian School have rendered service to our community which deserves special recognition, and whereas the Heartland Christian School staff, students, and parent volunteers donated their valuable time to help in the cleanup of debris at the tennis courts and funland, and worked on flower beds throughout Firestone Park in the city of Columbiana, and whereas the Firestone Park is a treasured asset and is enjoyed by so many people, their efforts to help in the cleanup and beautification of the park has earned them respect and appreciation from all city officials as well as the community as whole. And now therefore we, the council of the city of Columbiana, do hereby proclaim our appreciation to the Heartland Christian School, their staff, students, and parent volunteers, and do further express our sincere gratitude to them for their dedication of service to the city and its citizens dated this second day of June 2015. I think there's someone from Heartland. You want to come up?
Rebecca wants a copy of that.
What's that?
Rebecca wants a copy of that before we give the original away.
Oh, okay. I'll present you with this and we'll make a copy of it.
Rebecca would like a copy. We'll make a copy and we'll leave it for you. Can you stay until the meeting's over, or do you have to leave?
Yeah, I can make it now.
Okay, you can make a copy of that.
Can I say a couple words?
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We appreciate that. And we at Heartland, don't expect recognition for things like that, but it is very welcome. We appreciate the comments. At Heartland, we teach our students to be like Christ, and that is to serve, not to be served. And we give them many opportunities far and away. We have students go to Guatemala every other year. We have students who go down to St. Jude every year, Children's Hospital down in Memphis, Tennessee, and have the opportunity to serve. But I think the best place to serve is right here at home, and to give them that opportunity. So we appreciate Terry and his willingness to work with us at the park and the opportunities to be able to serve and teach our students that lifelong opportunity to serve, and that it's not all about me, but what can I do for others. So we do appreciate the recognition this evening.
Your assets to our community.
Thank you.
Thank you. Received the Columbiana Park Recreation and Cemetery Board meeting minutes of May 18th, 2015. Comments on those? Now we'll move right into recognition of desiring to appear. First is Terry McCoy, Chairman of the Sign Committee for the Columbiana Chamber of Commerce regarding proposed new signs for the city of Columbiana.
Good evening. Back in January of this year, the Business Development Committee had a meeting, and it was brought to our attention, and it's been kind of bouncing around from different groups to different groups, of making a pathway or a wayfinding method of getting people from Route 14 to the circle. So it was discussed in January. We ended up creating a subcommittee of the Business Development Committee, which I'm chairing, and that's for the signage. So we met in March. We first talked about what to do. People represented at that meeting were representing the merchants from the central business area, also the RR&B group, tourism board, chamber board members, all were present at that meeting to discuss this wayfinding, is what it is. So I had presented some ideas at that time, and we came back and we made some changes, alterations, and I then followed up with another meeting in May with the same group of people to present what you probably have seen now in front of you, the proposal for a post and panel sign. Did everyone get a copy of this? Okay. This is the status, current status of where we're at in the design process right now. So we have talked to InnerSource Sign Company up in Youngstown. They have a company that they work with to custom make signs. This would be a cast aluminum sign, all powder coated, painted finish on it. I think it really is quite attractive. A number of the people on the committee were all enthused by this. And what the purpose of all of this is to try again to draw people to the central business area, the circle area of the community. It's amazing to me that I still find people that live around us who have never come to the circle of town. People that I've talked to that live up in Arrowhead Bay Village area, and they've never come to the center of town. They have no clue where Firestone Park is. It's like beyond them. And, maybe we need to direct people better, and that's what this purpose is. So, as I said, the merchants were the first ones to ask for something like this, then the chamber and so forth, how this all started. So this is where we're at currently. I've asked InnerSource Sign Company to give us some pricing and quotes for these. I've talked to Lance a couple times. He attended our first meeting just to see how we could go about doing this. I was involved with the clock on the circle, of course, and it's a matter of cooperation with all the various committees. We raise money from different sources. We work together with the city to make things happen. So that's what I'm up to. And we haven't made any commitments to anybody yet. I'm going to be discussing this at the chamber board meeting next Tuesday. I'm sure that I'm going to end up talking to the Historical Society yet and to the foundation and several other people, all interested parties, the Merchants Association, of course, to try and get a cohesive group of people together to support this project. Roughly, these signs are just a ballpark price of $4,700 a piece for these signs. Wherever they go, that's really a decision that has to be made by the city, by the planning commission and so forth. We have some suggestions. Really primarily along Route 14 is our east-west artery, trying to direct people from there to the circle point. So that's all I have to present to you tonight. Any
Very
questions?
good.
Thank you.
Great idea.
Thank you very much.
It's an attractive picture.
I live here too, and I want to make sure it's done right.
It looks very nice.
And I think it's in keeping with our clock and everything else in our communities.
I love that idea of sign, it looks super nice. I have one concern with the verbiage on it being Old Village. I personally, branding the entire downtown area in a certain way might not reflect everyone's idea of what downtown should be.
It's interesting, Mayor, there was quite a bit of discussion about that term and how it should be presented. And almost to the person, everyone wanted OLDE and to make that identity set up. So if there's a new town center, they'll recognize the fact that there's a traditional old town village center somewhere else.
It's possible. My personal opinion is that if this already is the town center, and that's being something new, that we don't try to brand this as something old. Because if we brand it as old and it's not, you may detract from investors that want to make it new. Because there are people that are currently spending a lot of money downtown to try to dress it up and make it look new too. Maybe make it look new and call it old, it may not fit with those investors are trying. I don't know.
We'll be happy to invite you to our next meeting for more discussion. That's what it is.
I might say is, and don't get me wrong, it's the right to do so. I'm somewhat concerned about Tom Makel with his, town center. Okay, that's not the center of town. Right up here is the center of town. I think it's a good idea. So he's going to have something new out there. This is old. This is the one I remember from since I was the Idaho Grasshopper. So I think you're great. I like it too. Come on in. Tell them this is the old part of town, and we're still viable.
Yes, we are. We have great merchants here. We have good business in a beautiful area that the city's made improvements to on South Main Street. It looks great, and I think this is what we need to do, is let people know about it. So I'll be happy to report back to you after we make some more progress, maybe in 3 to 4 months.
Okay.
And you'll send an email out on that meeting date and time?
Yes, yes, it's not been set. We'll let you know.
And don't get me wrong, I think the idea of the signs are wonderful. I think they look nice, and I think the idea of directing traffic down there is great. Just the actual branding of the town per se as old town, just a personal opinion.
Understood. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Terry.
Next up is the tourism board regarding the Wine Fest and Art Fest.
Thank you. Tourism, even though the agenda says Wine Fest and the Arts and Crafts Festival, are much more than that. And to follow up on Terry's signage issue, of course, tourism is looking to bring tourism into all of Columbiana, and of course downtown too. And as a merchant, well, I have been downtown since '01, different merchant businesses, but down. And there really is a need to attract people downtown. There's a lot of people that come to the diner that finally found downtown and admits they didn't know what was downtown. So there is a real need to do something there on the signage. Tourism, we've got some upcoming events. The Wine Fest, of course, the 27th and 28th this year. It's a 2-day event out at the Legion. Tickets are on sale. We're looking for a big crowd, especially with the 2-day event. And tourism not only sponsors some events, we do the Wine Fest, we sponsor it, we organize it, we put it on, but we also promote everything else in town. So in this same process, we're going to be promoting what else, the 4th of July coming up. Arts and Crafts Festival is first weekend in August. This is, the 4th or 5th year since it's been back. And it's thriving, and we've got a great committee. Nancy Turpak has spearheaded this, and made a very successful year last year, and we certainly look forward to another one this year. We are also working on a steak fry. Many of you will remember the steak fry of 2 years ago and 3 years ago that the tourism board put on, and we're shooting to put another one on this year in August with some steaks from local businesses, and so we're working on that. And then, of course, even though the temperatures are in the 70s and 80s this week, Terry McCoy is heading up the Joy of Christmas Committee, and we've been meeting several times already, getting ready for Joy of Christmas. And literally, you have to start 8 months ahead of time to get that thing off and doing what it's supposed to do. We do have a website up finally. on the tourism board. We've got some new board members on the tourism board. Kim Sauerwein from Berkeley Realty has joined the tourism board and has been very instrumental in putting up the new website. And Kim, you want to say a few words about the website? And one of those things is going to promote Columbiana and of course Tourism Bureau.
Hi everyone, how are you? I'm Kim Sauerwein, I'm the marketing director with the Tourism Bureau. As you can all see, we exist. A lot of people don't know that, and that's really why we're here tonight. We want everybody here in town to know that we're here to bring people into town, to come to our shops, our restaurants, stay at our inns. The website has been active now for about a month or so. If you can all go on there and check it out. We also incorporated into the what to do's in the area, the history of the area. And that's an important part of the Tourism Bureau as well. We've got a few members here representing us tonight. Nancy Turpath, who heads the Firestone Committee. Terry McCoy, again, Joy of Christmas. Larry Dietrich is our president this year. We've got Terry Schaefer in the back corner there, he's on the Firestone Festival Committee. Everybody acting as volunteers that just want to get the word out. I really wanted to stand here myself today to let anybody in town know that has shop, restaurant, inn, anything of interest to a tourist, to please contact me and we will make sure to get a few photographs of their business on the website. All we need is some photographs. We need either a website or a Facebook page for them. Then when the potential tourist goes to our website and clicks on the photograph, it automatically either takes them to a web page, Facebook page, and all of their contact information, hours, so on and so forth. So it's really a way for local businesses to have better business. So that's how we're trying to help the community while also educating people on our past. And that's pretty much it. Thank you.
Very good. Jack, you want to look?
Yeah. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jack Sutherland. I live at 246th Street. I'm a member of the Grapeland base of the United States Veterans as Dick Walter. I'm here to ask that the mayor produce a proclamation declaring the 11th of July as Columbiana Police Department Recognition Day. I've talked to Chief Gladys. We will have our Western meeting at the American Legion at 12:30 on the 11th of July. And we have invited any of the police department to participate. A little bit of history, there are 208 members of us right now in the area. We operate normally out of Pittsburgh. Leetsdale is our home base. We go each of the four corners. This is our corner to come west. We've come to the American Legion last year. We've been to Cello Bellas 2 or 3 times. We brought people from Pittsburgh into the area. They've been coming back to Shaker in the Woods. They've found Peace Valley Orchard. They've played golf at the links. So we're bringing people in, but we'll also have a good time. You people are invited also. It will be a very interesting picnic. I thank you.
Thank you. We'll have the proclamation for the next meeting.
Thank you.
Yep. Anyone else this evening? Come on up.
I apologize, I didn't read the agenda.
That's okay.
Apologies. Just a couple of things. First of all, I would like to request permission to place a thank you to our flower basket sponsors on the square for 30 days. This year's sign is smaller than last year. It is 24 inch by 48 inch, so 2 by 4 feet. So that is my first request for permission for that sign placement. Second, just to give an update on First Friday, which is this Friday night. I'll pass out the flyer to you. We would love to invite each of you to participate. If you're not busy, come on over to the chamber table. I'll be there and would love some company. I'll have to get you on there. As well, July 3rd, our first Friday, our theme for July is American is Apple Pie. So we're looking to do an apple pie contest, and we would like to invite each of you to be a judge for that. So please keep that in mind, and we'll be in touch with that as well. And finally, I would like to, on behalf of the County Chambers of Commerce, invite each of you to attend our Business Expo and Trade Show, which will be held on July 28th. We are having a meet your legislators. Each of the 6 chambers across Columbiana County are inviting their council members, mayors, city managers to attend during that time. It should be a nice networking opportunity and just an opportunity to come together and meet one another. So please know that that invitation is open as well. Does anyone have any questions for me?
Keep up the good work.
Who is that?
Keep up the good work.
Okay.
You're looking for the sign to be in the same place it was last year?
Yes, they're near in the grassy area where the Christmas tree is, yes.
Any issues with that?
I don't have any issue with it. If there's any help that you need, April, just give me a call.
And thank you, Chief Gladys, as well, for the assistance on May 1st for the First Friday event. We had a lot of comments that it was nice to have traffic help right there crossing, so we appreciate it.
I move that we approve the sign as requested.
Second.
Yeah.
Becker?
Yes.
Souter?
Yes.
McBain?
Yes.
Schlenker?
Yes.
Callender? Yes. Simpson?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And also, we have moved. We are officially in our new location, so feel free to stop by. We're just across the road, so.
Let's question this address on it. One piece of paper.
Oh, yeah, that'll be forwarded across the road. We did those before the move, so. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else this evening? No, moving to the manager's report.
Hearing is under
Okay.
kudos, chief.
Special motion or anything?
Just open the hearing.
At this time, we'll open the public hearing regarding amending chapter 1294, section 1260.35, definition of sign, area of subsection A.
Ian, do you have anything to say about this verbiage here?
Just briefly, the definition that's being amended appeared to me to allow multiple signs rather than one sign connected. And the sole purpose of the amendment is to clarify the intent of the council and the code that the sign surface is to be one. You can't have a sign here in reference to another one sitting next to it, perhaps a third sitting next to it. So that's all it is. That's always been the intent, the definition of the code.
Any public comments on it?
I apologize, I just have one question as you speak about the signs being next to each other. Would that be a duplicate sign, the exact same sign next to it, or different? The reason I ask is during the 4th of July and Wine Festival, we do place a double bannered sign. So the one is the July 4th and the other would be the Wine Festival. Is that,
Are they connected?
they're on the same post, but they are not connected.
But I think the easiest example that anyone can relate to is the real estate sign. You'll see real estate signs on arms, and then you'll see the sign, and then you'll see another sign connected to it, and then perhaps a third connected sign, all within the approved space. what has happened on occasion is that there will be the real estate sign, and then there'll be a reference sign over here by someone else, unconnected to the sign, just stuck in the ground, and sometimes a third one. So we wanted to make sure that our code says one sign on one piece of property. And that was not clear in the definition of area. So I'm having a hard time picturing what you're talking about.
Oh, I think what I heard her say was that they have a set of posts, and they put two signs on the same set of
Well,
posts.
that would be connected.
Yeah.
That's what I meant by being connected. If they're connected, that's, and the area, if it's a banner, the square footage sign is different than, let's say, a real estate sign. But that's the purpose of this. And if that's the case, your sign wouldn't be affected adversely.
Yeah, come up if you have a question.
In reference to multiple signs in one spot, we'll just go what the Mercantile on the square had done. They had put like 3 or 4 in a row in a spot. Is this along the same lines of what you're talking about, or is it something different in code?
No, I don't think that's going to have an impact on what you're talking about. Those commercial locations are specifically entitled to certain signs, one on the wall, an overhang sign, perhaps one in the window. I'm not
You put
familiar.
those yard signs out.
Well, that might,
That throughout town, I think those are the ones that Augie maybe collected a few weeks ago.
well, that's a different matter. That doesn't relate to what we're
Okay,
talking about.
because that's something we're looking to do maybe for the fair. That's what I'm trying to make sure I'm on the same page.
Well, we're going to be addressing that later on. That's a public activity as opposed to a commercial enterprise. So this won't affect
Okay.
that in either case.
It's really just to prevent yards and whatnot from getting cluttered up
Yeah.
with multiple signs.
Right, okay.
Any other comments? If not, we'll close the public hearing. You read the mayor's update?
Okay. The Norfolk Southern folks came in yesterday, closed Elm Street. They opened it back up. Everybody knows that it was rough coming in to the council meeting. Hopefully they are going to be able to smooth that out a little bit, either tonight or tomorrow. And then within 30 days, they'll be coming back to completely redo it and pave it permanently. So we can see the light at the end of the tunnel on that. Pittsburgh Street was closed today. As I came in, they had opened it. It may be closed again tomorrow for a little bit. And they should be done that work tomorrow. And then again, within 30 days, they're gonna come back and complete all the work on Pittsburgh and then Elm Street, railroad crossings. And then later on, we're not real sure when, but they're gonna come back and do Main Street. But the key is that the other two will be done, so they won't have to, close those at that time. So Jesse's been working with Norfolk Southern this week, and he did reach out to them today and told them of our concern that it was very rough. So hopefully they can put a temporary fix to that within the next couple of days.
Lance, one other issue, it seems like over the years, the width of that they cover is getting less and less and less, so there's less and less sidewalk, so to speak, at the crossing. I noticed it on Walking Wells. On the Elm Street crossing, there used to be space to walk on both sides of the street. Right now, it's down to the point where it's only on one side of the street. And I'd hate to see them trim that any more than what it is, because as a pedestrian, it's not necessarily safe to get across some of these places. So I just would like to make sure Jesse checked with them and make sure that there's adequate sidewalk space for people walking on those tracks.
I will do that. just get back to Elm Street last year, when they were in here last summer, Ted brought up the fact that it was getting smaller, so all the new pavement or asphalt that did come in on the west side was due to Jesse checking it out, and we got that done, so I'll make sure to have him look at that, and make sure we don't lose any on any of the other streets, crossings either. As far as the quiet zone, I reached out to the Port Authority. I had a meeting with Ohio Rail Development, representatives from ODOT, and John Blair from Dallas Dawson. And we were looking for possible funding mechanisms for the quiet zone. And then they had recommended to call the Port Authority or call them. They were going to consider it. I also reached back out to Tad Harold. He's going to follow up on a few possible leads. And also Lou Genoza from the Ohio Rail Development Commission to confirm the existing technology at the crossings, which we had done that last year, but he's going to reconfirm that. Next meeting, Mike will have the tax budget to be passed, and we normally do that as a motion. August did update the high grass report. There were 17 of those. We had a little bit of discussion about that. We did get 14 of those completed, and 15 of those were in the old part of town. The one that wasn't was out there at the golf course, and everybody that can see that, the job wasn't done very well, so reaching back out to them. They did not put a good effort into that, so we're going to have to make sure we follow up on that. But we did get 14 of the 17 completed. iSynergy, the people that helped us do an electronic recycling event for Columbiana last year, they're going to actually, we actually worked close hand in hand with them last year, but we're actually going to work closer. They're going to have their event on August 7th. That's a Friday. That is a week of town cleanup. So that'll allow everybody, when they're thinking about town cleanup, to just bring their stuff, like computers, laptops, cash registers, servers, monitors, keyboards, to the park, the actual pool parking lot on that Friday and Saturday. Last year, I think they had 2 semi-loads full of stuff when they were done. So this year, they're teaming up with us. If we find anything throughout, we may be able to get that to them Friday, so people aren't going to have to hold on to it any longer than they have to, like they did last year. But we do appreciate iSynergy, and they will be here in July to discuss their event. Park and Cemetery. Terry's investigating another pool leak. We had thought we had fixed one, but we've got we think an internal plumbing problem, and we've got a guy lined up to come out in the next few weeks to try to track that down. Crews have been removing mostly rotten telephone pole barriers around the park, which Terry, that really looks nice. It's probably a safety hazard before, but it's looking a lot better. The park crew's been able to maintain, we do have 2 families of geese now, but other than that, we're down to 2, and then July we'll try to get them to fly away. We'll see. Street department, be milling this week. I don't know if some of you were coming in town, you saw some parking bans. There's one on North Vine. Several areas of the city have parking bans, temporary parking bans tonight, so we can get our paving equipment in there tomorrow and Thursday, and that'll allow us to get the milling machine out there. And they're already posted. They have been since this afternoon. They will be milling parts of Pittsburgh Street and do West Metz and a couple others tomorrow. Also over here on South Middle, Northwest, and North Vine. The street crew did an innovative thing. They tried putting cold patch through the paver, which they were told by a vendor that it would work, and it actually did work. We tested it on a high traffic area. The benefits would be that we could do it in the colder weather. We didn't want to try that then, when it was cold and have it not work. But by putting cold patch through, you can drive on it almost instantly after that. It's still a temporary patch, but it does a really nice job. And, we'll have to come back and do some permanent paving, but for patching, it's really nice, and it's more permanent than just the regular tamping it down. You actually roll it after you're done. Wastewater department, they're rebuilding some gearboxes and motors at oxidation ditch. And the water department's been installing meters, marking big locates, and they perform some well maintenance, including chlorine shocking the wells. And then in your packet, I don't know if this is probably as good a time as any, we had the packet about the parking on East Park Avenue, here out front of the Mercantile Square, or Mercantile on Square, I should say. So I didn't know if you had any comments about that. We did receive some concerns late last November about the safety of people parking out in front of that, and since then the chief and Jesse and we've been kind of doing a small study to make sure we're doing the right thing there, considering all the rules and regulations. And we did find, you notice in your packet, we did find that there is evidence of no parking ordinance on the books.
Is that ordinance that you gave us part of our charter? Because it looks like it's from date of enactment 6/2 of 1950.
59, I think it is.
Would that be part of our current charter?
It's not part of the charter, it's part of our ordinances.
So when we did that, we just adopted everything prior to also?
Yeah, I'd like to go in and amplify on that. You don't
Well,
want to base that
the
there.
reason I was pretty sure that it existed, although I didn't know where it was, when it was enacted, was because whenever there's a no parking ordinance established by council, it's always followed by the erection of signs. And there are signs all along Park Avenue, east, west, both sides, that say no parking. And there's a no parking sign in front, just east of the alleyway that crosses Park Avenue. And I believe, and I think the chief agrees, that the only reason that there was another sign located further up is because it's all concrete and there's no place to put another sign. So I think the signs indicate clearly the intent of the ordinance passed in 59, that there should be no parking on East Park or West Park Avenue.
How far back did we go looking at access in that spot?
I went back to what the original request, but just from memory, before that, I'm not aware of a lot of wrecks there. We had the one where we went back out and back into the park. We haven't had anything major right there in that part of the block, other than the intersection itself going into Elm Street and the alley. Intersection-related actions do exist. The one coming on Elm Street would be, in my mind, unrelated to the way that these were going. One was a truck hit a light pole, and there's another where people pull out in front of the cars, things like that. They've got unrelated to cars.
I did find humorous, chief, that the lady that backed across 2 lanes of traffic said that if the car would have been parked there, she wouldn't have hit it.
I think that's a fair statement.
I thought the next time somebody runs into the back of somebody, if the car had them and hadn't been there, they wouldn't have hit them.
If I wouldn't have hit him, we wouldn't have had a wreck.
Yeah.
You also said that there's potential for one spot there?
If you look at the pavement area, there's about 60 feet of curb. Applying the standards We applied downtown with that project, parking space is about 20 feet, the space itself. And then basically an intersection of the alley which constitutes a crosswalk, it would be 20 feet from the crosswalk. And then there's and you can see in the pictures, I think maybe in your package, there's a place where the parking for the log cabin is. There has to be some kind of an offset from that to allow visibility. That brings your total space down to where you have one serviceable space in terms of the measurements that we've accepted as industry standard.
I hasten to add, though, that everything the chief said is true with regard to the length of the space, but the width of the space is too narrow. Because our code requires that there be 10 feet of free access for traffic to travel when the car is parked on the road. Most cars are 6.5 feet wide. If you count the mirror, there's another 6 inches or so. So you might have room for one space lengthwise, but you don't really have it widthwise. Not to mention the parking ordinance and the other concerns, but that's why it's pretty clear that that's a no parking zone.
Chief, one of the other things that sort of caught me that I hadn't thought much about before, do we have any restrictions on how long someone's allowed to park in the central business district? I mean, a lot of places have like a 2-hour limit or a 3-hour limit or whatever. Some places it's down to even like half an hour or so.
The restrictions involve loading zones. There are restrictions on loading zones, those are 30 minutes while you're actively engaged in loading and unloading. The other regulations involve 24-hour periods, and of course we have the restriction between 2 a.m. and 5:30 a.m. that you're prohibited any overnight parking anywhere in the city on any public street or way.
But if someone's in a legal parking space, they can park there basically all day if they...
They can park there all day unless there's a prohibition that exists, and there are prohibitions that are specialized.
Yeah.
Some areas have no parking between 6 a.m. and 6:30 p.m., for instance.
Yeah.
Some places have time limitations in terms of the length of time, including one behind this building.
Yeah.
So unless there's a sign otherwise posted, that would be true, except for the overnight parking restriction.
Right.
And except for the other restrictions that's contained in the piece of code I gave you, there's 1, 8, or 10, or 12 of them there that you can't park in a crosswalk, can't park 50 feet from a railroad crossing. There's a series of those that are prohibitions that people may or may not know, just in general knowledge, but they're prohibitions nonetheless. So we try to mitigate that with pavement markings, yellow curbs, things like that to give someone a fair notice that it's a no parking zone. Even though that notice isn't necessarily required, we can try hard. Parking violations frankly give me far more headaches than felony arrests ever did. If I didn't have to do them, I'd be happy, but you'd be paralyzed if you didn't.
My feeling is to defer to you guys from a safety standpoint to the residents in town. I do have concern from a business owner standpoint that we've never enforced this with every other business that's been there before. We had Shine in there, and they were doing the same type of thing in business before that. I don't want Terry making $4,000 per sign investment to bring people downtown, and business owners thinking that they're not necessarily, that they make an investment that something changes on them. And I think that sends a very bad message to everyone involved.
I don't think that anything's changed. I think what changed is our knowledge level on what was prohibited and what wasn't. I was unable to find the particular piece of law that Dan found, and lawyers are pretty good at research, and he found that out of the needle in a haystack. But the bottom line is that's what we try to do: signs, pavement markings, and so forth. I've always believed it's been no parking, but in the absence of specific law that I was able to locate, I was reluctant to cite anybody there until we were able to get the research done to show me that it's no parking. So we tried to be as fair as we possibly could. And now that we know what we know,
So
I don't think we're in a position to ignore it.
Our code is online, so if we go on and search this, that comes up.
No, you won't,
No.
you won't find that. You'll have to go to
That was the book.
the.
That was what Dan did. I researched online, and to the extent that I could, and I couldn't find it anywhere. He actually went through the book that's been around since that time
Yeah, our
and
code
manually
books,
found it.
our code books go back to the 20s, 30s, I think. Well, obviously that's 51 or 59.
Are we enforcing all the laws right now?
Nobody enforces all laws written in any code book ever, anywhere, period, paragraph.
If we know about it.
No, if we know about it, we are hard pressed if we know about something and we ignore it, knowing that a safety hazard is created by our ignoring the law. That's a very difficult position to be in as a city. I think it tends to start voiding your sovereign immunity and other things. I just think it's very hard to do. I think that once you know something and fail to correct it, it's a tough spot that I certainly want to learn again.
Question.
Yes.
Does this street width, what have you, parking on one side, does that vary between commercial districts and residential districts, what have you?
It's a question that's probably better suited to the engineer that does those things. We don't necessarily, as a police department, get involved in street width in that granular fashion. I don't know the answer to that.
And the reason why I asked, you and I had a conversation about
Right.
a vehicle at Woodland Avenue.
Right.
That every time I go over to Save-A-Lot, it kind of scares me because they're parked legally, they're 20 feet from the intersection, but whoever is winging in off of Fairfield Avenue can't see me and I can't see them as I'm going around that vehicle. And two cars cannot pass on that street if there's a car parked there.
Right, and those are some of the things that I think that Dan referenced. So if there's insufficient width and there are all those things that exist, what you find, particularly in cities that have some history, some age, if you will, a lot of the streets are narrower, a lot of the streets are problematic, and they come to light, or they tend to come to light, as we receive complaints or as we receive requests for attention to those areas. Then we start doing the research, then we get into a position where we find things out that we need to act on. That's what this case is here. Do I know of every place in town where it might be too narrow to park? No, I don't know every place, but I can tell you a couple, off the top of my head. Do we want to go through them one by one? We certainly could. I mean, if anybody has some that they want me to check, I'll be glad to do that. I don't want to make the people in the neighborhoods happy, but it is what it is.
Well, I'm concerned about enforcing here and not somewhere else.
Yeah, and I agree with you. We have to kind of be uniform and consistent. And, the difficulty of that is researching, finding the actual code, finding out what it is we can and can't enforce. And a good example is the signs in the park on the dogs. There's signs, but we found that there's no code, so it puts you in a tough spot. We have to find all that before we can really do anything about it. And once you find it, then you act. And if we go place to place and do that, we can, understanding that we have limitations in terms of time, manpower. It gets triaged sometimes, and that's why you're waiting from November till May or June to hear about this. It gets triaged to other more important things. Any other questions?
Are you still working on solutions lines?
Yeah, I did look in, because right now it needs to be, 4 feet wider, Chief? Or 2 feet, 4 feet?
The road itself is 32, the engineer says it needs to be 36, and we have to get the clearances, as Dan mentioned in the code, there are ways.
So one of the options would be kind of create a bump out, which would be widening the road right there, so you could make that wider there. There's a wide sidewalk there that you could actually carve out a parking spot. As the chief referenced, you have a room for at least one. You might be able to fit 2 in there if you were to, you would have to, we'd leave, talking to the engineer, you'd have to put them a little bit closer together in between the cars. And we'd have to really get those measurements out to see if we could do that. But you're talking about carving that sidewalk out, making the road wide per there, and it's going to be, that'd be very costly. We got just a rough estimate today. We had a contractor stop by and to do to widen the road for one parking, one bump out, but all the way to the side of the building, just to make it nice. It would be upwards of $25,000.
One of the things that kind of bothered me with the whole situation was the business owner was complaining about how the lack of parking there in front of the store is going to reduce her business, but on the other hand, she's occupying one of the spaces on a 24 hours, but during the course of the business being open. So it's sort of like if she's really concerned about parking, why she park in front of the stores instead of finding some other location to park. And I understand she commented on safety, or her personal safety, and leaving the store at night, but it didn't, none of it really sounds like it makes a whole lot of sense to me at this point.
If she's worried about personal safety, it's always been something that a simple phone call to our police department here, escorting either from the building or escorting from the building to the bank to make a deposit. So those issues could be taken care of.
And we have offered that to her, and we made her aware that that service does exist, and we do it for a number of businesses currently.
Did we find anything else out about her references to stating that Bob Building told her it was okay?
Yes, we did. I spoke to Mr. Belding personally, and he indicated he did in fact say that to her.
That he did.
I note that 40-some years, I parked illegally there. Parked at Freddie Coe's Ford Garage, Firestone Store. I never was a Shine, whatever, I never parked there. Somewhat shocked because I tried to follow the law. But what's been going through my mind and a suggestion to the young lady, if I were in her shoes, I think I would be putting some type of sign out there to my customers that for your safety, would you please park behind the building, and then I would, since I went and looked, she has a back door, and of course there's always been a back door to that building. Set that back door up so it alarms when somebody comes in and out of there, so that can basically become a normal ingress and egress for that building. I think if she does it in a positive manner, for your safety, please do this. Chances are it won't interfere with the business. The other part of the story is we're aware of the fact that the laws are being broken. We are, as you said, giving up our sovereign immunity if we don't enforce that law now. So we're kind of between a rock and a hard spot.
You could remove that ordinance. You could vote to remove that ordinance, and then you're not giving up anything.
Well, as long as the ordinance is on the books, then we'll-
But if there's still a safety issue, and there's a problem, then
Is there still parking allowed on the square?
There's parking on certain parts of the square where, with this project, as part of the thing for researching too, to find out what, if any, prohibitions there are there, because we're looking for that too. But a couple of the options I presented, of course, were she has some parking in the back. There is parking close by. Some on the square is as far as we know, legal. On North Main Street on both sides, there's legal parking. On South Main on both sides, there's legal parking. It's a matter of finding one of those spaces that may or may not be open at that time, and how many cars you would have at one given time. It's a problem not unlike those faced by any business owner that has a business downtown, where you may have to park in the lot or somewhere else and walk to the business. So very few times are you lucky enough to find something right for the door you're going to. Those are options I did present to her in terms of options. It isn't, I don't think, an unreasonable burden in light of what potentially could happen if we ignore it. Somebody could sit out there, or a pedestrian can't see, or any of the other things that could happen because something
I can see her side of this, in fact, say it was Sparkle Market, and everyone had to park in the back of Sparkle Market, and you drive by and you say, there's no one there, I'm not going to that place. It could be the same type of concept, so and I'm not trying to defend this, I'm just playing devil's advocate for something.
Yeah, that's an easy question for me to answer, frankly. My only question is it legal? Is it illegal? If it's legal, we do it. If it's illegal, we don't. It's as simple as that for me. All the other things are certainly factors, and I do have empathy for it. And I understand what you're saying, but
I guess I wasn't finished though. I'm saying legally, the other side of it is, say she has a landlord and she's entered into a lease, the current value of the lease, expecting those front parking spaces, because there's a value to that. And we're taking that away. And she's committed to a lease. The city told her, yeah, you can park there. And now we're taking that away. Where's it fall?
So I
I just have one thing, I'm not sure why the question was asked of Bob, because if you stand at the no parking sign that's there, it has to be, it would be look west. If that no parking sign is actually indeed supposed to be just up into the corner of her building, then it's only prohibiting parking for like 4 feet, because then you have the alley. It's 4 feet before the alley. So I don't think anybody would ever park perpendicular to an alley. But
I feel like I would personally defer to your guys' feelings on the safety of the issue. But if there's been one accident in the years that we can recollect, I don't think it's necessarily just a safety issue as much as just an enforcement issue of a 65-year-old ordinance that we didn't know was on the books until we just got this Friday.
I think it's more of a liability issue than anything else. It's a matter of not what has happened, but what could happen. And that's always something that has to be considered when you're looking at law violations. It's just like stopping a person that is drunk driving. It used to be, we'd find them in town and they'd be a little bit too much to drink, and we'd say, all right, I'll follow you home. Well, that was until somebody got in a bad wreck and got killed, then it was the fault of the police department for letting them drive. Now we don't do that anymore. Things evolve, things change as situations and conditions change. I think that's what this is.
Is there parking allowed in the alley along her building?
No.
There is
Parking in
not.
alleys is prohibited when it's blocked, especially there because there's basically the alley is right against her building and the stop sign is right there. So there's a couple of handicap spaces that are across from her that technically are on the church property. And I don't know if any arrangements she's made there, but in the alley itself, that parking there wouldn't be permitted. And it isn't in any alley other than loading and unloading.
You asked why she would ask that. I think if I was running the building, I would ask it to clear it up. And I don't think that's a dumb question that she asked if there was parking there. And I think we do have some responsibility for what people tell people. Because if you run a building with the assumption that it's there, and then invest
There's a lot of money invested there.
a lot of money, and then all of a sudden, that's taken away from you. And normally, any business does park one car or two out front to indicate that there's business there. You're saying about her parking there. That draws people as much as a sign or anything else does. If you drive by a restaurant and there's no cars there, you don't stop. But if there's 3 cars there, even if it's the workers' cars, it does attract business. So that is a reason to park out front.
There's one other little wrinkle in this ordinance that is worthy of mention. East Park Avenue was improved by the state of Ohio back in 59, whatever this was. And the condition for the improvement was that there would be no parking on East Park Avenue. I only bring that up because the state would probably have to concede that could be allowed if you decided to change the ordinance. But I mean, I'm in complete agreement with Lance and the chief on this. As it stands, there's no parking. It's black and white. There's no parking. Regardless of any other issue, and the chief and the police department have to enforce it. They have no choice.
It sure makes us look like we've got a black eye, though. If this gal came in and did tons of renovation, and it was told from the get-go that she had parking there. It's a kind of a catch-22 here. I don't know what the final answer is, but.
Well, the other whole piece of this, if parking can't go there, normally every time there's a show, they're parked up all along through the circle, down the side, that, you guys stop that, cut down the amount of, I mean, this is very anti-business for trying to bring business down here. It's crazy. What do you make us go looking for an ordinance from something this,
It's 2 cars.
I mean, did we wake up one day and say, let's go look for an ordinance for 1959?
We wanted to, during any investigation or any research, you have to look at everything. And that's what we were doing. And we couldn't find it, and I asked Dan to take a look at it.
What started the exact research?
This exact research was a council meeting in November when Councilman Becker asked me to look into cars going left to center on East Park Avenue.
I agree with him, it makes us look bad. Somebody from the town says it's okay. And that you did your due diligence, and then it's taken away after you invest your money.
It's 50 something.
Come on up.
Ron Lalonde, I just have one suggestion. With respect to whether or not she was told that she could have parking in front of that building, has anybody thought to go back and review the site plan review when she came before the planning commission?
Yes, I did.
And whether or not there was anything discussed with respect to parking in the site plan review?
In the back, it does not mention the front.
There was nothing in the site plan review that said there could be parking in front of the building.
No.
Well, you may not need it if it's considered public parking. You may not have to ask for parking if it's considered public
But
parking.
now, obviously, from what the chief has said, and what from the attorney has said, it's not public parking, and never has been.
But I think we found that out this week.
When that store was Firestone, and I don't ever recall anybody having to park in front of that building. I did business there for many, many years, and I never had any problem parking in the back of the building and using the back entrance to go into the store. So I don't see any reason why she would.
I parked there in 1957 buying a new Ford. Parked there at the Firestone store buying new tires. So it's been a long time. And the cars were bigger then than they are now, I assume. So going from history, I'm sure that's part of why Bob said that.
What does this do for Sunday parking for church? People park in?
It's illegal to park on East Park Avenue. It's either legal or it's illegal. In
Right.
this case, it's illegal.
So they're parking there now and we let them?
We don't necessarily
Well-
let anybody. We just found this out.
Right.
It's illegal.
Well, that no parking sign has been there.
It's been,
So when people park in front of the church, they're parking almost in front of that sign. I mean,
it's illegal.
it's gonna hurt them.
front of the church?
So you're gonna stop them from
I have
parking on
to
Sunday
decide.
too?
It's illegal, sir. What would you have me do?
I just
We
can't
learned now that
understand
it's
this
illegal.
being brought up now after, they're around since dust was made. And it was all okay up until a couple weeks ago.
Well, the no parking sign's been there in front of the church. It was just, I don't know,
They just parked there.
overlooked or,
Do they have an exception for Sunday only?
I think the difference becomes when you focus attention on something that becomes, it rises and bubbles up and puts you in a position of having to act.
And it puts us in a bad position, I feel.
And council is a legislative body. You can make law, repeal law, or modify law. I suggest if you want to do that, you present it to try to allow parking in front of the church. You'll still face all the issues in terms of the street width. Those will still be there. You can't legislate away the issues that exist with the street width unless you do bump outs or widen it.
Clarification purposes first, just a minute, Jake. In studying this and looking down through, and I looked at it before, it didn't strike me. This had to be 1950 that this ordinance was passed. The reason why I say that, E.L. Calvin happened to be the mayor at the time, which some of us remember him. I also note that the reason the state of Ohio was investing the grand sum of $6,250 in East Park Avenue was the fact that State Routes 14 and 46 passed through East Park Avenue. That was before our infamous bypass was built. Therefore, the traffic situation, although it's most likely as busy now as it was in 1446 there, we used to have all the truck traffic through there every day. So for clarification, I want everybody to realize that rather than just 59.
Cars are probably smaller now than they were 65 years ago too.
1950s, some are. And you get into the mid-50s and 60s and 70s, they're much bigger. I got one that's 20 feet long. Need a bigger parking space.
With that being brought to light, I mean, you're putting in, you're gonna have to be, it's gonna be an all-in-one deal. I mean, you got plays that run throughout the year, you got special events in the city that run, and people park wherever they find the smallest piece of land. We know that with 4th of July, we know that with the street fair, and we've seen that now more with how well the theater's been doing. And I understand, the police department's only got so many people, but, and I'm for following the law and safety as much as the next person, but the second that she's out there watching to see if the city's doing anything about the other instances, you know she'll come in here, she's gonna go to the paper, and you will get a black eye, maybe two, and nobody wants that. So I think the city council really should make some sort of movement to minimize the damage.
I agree.
Interesting, Jake, that you say that about people will park wherever there's a spot. I stood uptown one day and watching somebody jockey around to park on the northwest corner of French Street on a yellow curb within 20 feet of the intersection and a fire hydrant. And they full with traffic, I don't know how long to get into that parking space. I thought, well, if I was a policeman, there'd be 3 tickets.
You see it right there when you make the right on Union Street, the park right there in the corner,
Yes.
very often.
I'd like to just speak on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce. You know, we struggle to bring businesses to our community. We do everything we can to present ourselves to them as an open community, willing to have new businesses come in. And I think it's very unfortunate that you're going to turn this around like this and cause this business to end up with some deficits to them, to their business. So, I mean, these things needed to be worked out in the planning commission level. I agree with you 100%. It should have all been ironed out. But to go back and find a 1959 ordinance and hang your hat on that, that's a little shameful, I think. I understand the technicalities of things, and if we want to get technical, you can't back out on a state road. What do you think the circle is? 164. How can the historical society pull in there and then back out, or immediately across the street? You allow them to pull in there and back out, which causes a wreck. You can't do that on state streets, state public roads. So you're condoning things in various places. You really need to kind of take this and put it in the planning commission and review all of this. I agree, you need to have these regulations on books, but you need to tell the merchants up front at the planning commission level, you can park there and you can't park there. In this community, we should be more open to our merchants than what we are. It's almost shameful what you're talking about doing.
I would like to add to that on behalf of council, at least for me, I received this letter from this store owner addressed to me personally in deep regret of what the city is doing to her, and I didn't know we were. I don't know if anyone else on council did, but I had no idea this was going on. And when we asked about it, we were told that there was an ongoing investigation which rapidly picked up pace after this letter was sent, and it was CC'd to the Columbiana Chamber of Commerce. So I just, whenever we do something, I know council has a say-so that the city manager and the police, you guys do what you need to do. But I desperately suggest that something of this magnitude at least involves council, say, hey, here's the heads up, we're doing this study, rather than getting this and then having to answer my name on it for something I don't even know what I'm doing. So,
Well, I'd like to make one point, that we didn't just go out there and paint it no parking. You know, we didn't go out and put a yellow stripe on there and say no parking. We wanted to investigate it and look at it.
I hate to say this, but if I was needed a lawyer, I'd make Terry my mouthpiece. I completely agree with him that this has been really emotional over this very thing. Very, very upset. The way that it's handled. More study needs done. When somebody invests, I can imagine a couple $100,000 in a business. Yeah, maybe she was told erroneously, so she was told. I think we need to do more due diligence to find a way to solve this problem than just say it's illegal. Heck, I can find other things around town that are illegal we aren't enforcing too. If you start doing this, they can say this is this. Pretty soon we won't be allowed to have anything downtown. You know, this needs to be handled more gently, I think, is what it is at this point. Yeah, it's illegal.
If I could follow up on two things, please. Mr. McCoy, I think, makes some valid points, but let me make it clear that the police department has always and always will continue to support all the merchants in town. We want people to come in, we want businesses to be here. Piggybacking on what you're saying, I think the difference becomes the letter of law and the spirit of the law. And what you have to look at is a couple things. For instance, when you come to a stop sign, the definition of a stop, the legal definition, is a complete cessation of forward motion. So if your wheel doesn't stop spinning, you can make that Pepsi stop and go through because it's clear, that's technically a violation. We could write for those. We don't. Usually there's nothing there and it's clear. This one is a situation where 8 out of every 10 cars, maybe higher, need to drive left to center to get around obstruction of the traffic lane. To me, it's a no-brainer. It's not like we don't enforce all this, but now we're enforcing that on some kind of a whim or just because we want to. We're going back to 1950 to find a law or a way to do it. That's not even close to correct. What we're doing is looking at something that is far more serious than most of the other things that have been mentioned here tonight. People have to drive left to center to get around that. It's a problem waiting to happen. I'll be glad to enforce or not enforce any law that council makes or repeals. But I need to know where you want to be on it. We can enforce everything out there. That's not really what the law is designed to do. It's designed to regulate safe behavior, make sure we all would hear that. Nobody wants to be regulated. Certainly it's unfortunate that she was given misinformation and relied on that to make whatever decision she made. I don't want to be the bad guy here at all. Unfortunately, it's either legal or it's illegal. In this case, it's illegal, and I can't change that. You could if you want. I don't recommend it, but you certainly can, and I'll be glad to enforce or not enforce as council chooses or legislate.
Couple of questions. East Park Avenue, is that a state route? It is not a state route, is it?
I don't think it's a state route.
I don't think it is either. And where the recommendation for streets being 36 feet wide, is that just a recommendation, or is that
That's a question
how realized?
you would have to ask the engineer. I got the information from him. I assume that that's at least an industry standard for what they refer to as an arterial street, which is what that particular street is, being a route between State Route 14 and the center of town. It's classified as an arterial street. Also, the traffic volume on there is quite heavy, especially at hours around 8 o'clock, noon, and 4 or 5 o'clock. At night, probably won't even see after Price Street of Cannon down there, not anybody. During the time, in the daytime, and some of the hours that the mercantile is open, it's problematic in terms of pedestrians crossing. It's problematic in terms of driving left to center.
As far as council not knowing anything about it, that's why we have a manager. He takes care of those things.
Is it, I don't know, just in reading the information on the width and the length and the width of the street, is it feasible to move the center line over by 2 feet or 3 feet towards the other side of the street and give enough clearance on both lanes for traffic to pass?
I don't think that's the case there, but I mean, I can ask the engineer to take a closer look to see if there are any other options that we can look at. And again, we didn't go out there and paint it. That's why we're sitting here talking about it. You know, we didn't just go out there and say no parking. Chief has not written a ticket right there.
My understanding is you were just investigating.
Correct.
Well, the fact is, now it is illegal, and where we go now is either we're gonna change the law and make it legal, or move the law, whatever you're going to do, or we're gonna recommend that we paint the curb yellow and begin by issuing warnings for a period, and then go to enforcement. That's the way these are usually handled. We wanna be fair, we also don't wanna ignore the regulation. Speaking with Jesse, I know I don't wanna speak for him, he's not here, but I think he spoke with the engineer whose name I think is John, and my understanding was it wasn't recommended the center line be moved. But that's something I didn't hear that directly. That's third hand from Jesse.
That's one of my thoughts to solve it too, is just to move the center line and try and rectify the problem without upsetting anybody. I don't really know what, you know, the law is there. We either change the law but then again, you're pushing everybody across the center line.
I think, first off, I tried it, I can drive my pickup truck past her van. Of course, he's got a minivan without crossing the center line. The other thing I think what we should do is we should look to see if we move the center line, or if we allow the parking to happen there, are we breaking any of the laws? If we are not, then I think this council has the right to pass an ordinance, changing the ordinance from 1950. I think we need to do that research to find out if we're going to break any of the laws by doing this. If we're not, then maybe we better consider doing something. If we are, then maybe we're just going to have to say, I'm sorry, that's the law.
I concur with Dick. I agree with you.
You do?
I do.
What?
I still go back to if I had, was going to buy the store and I was told you could, and then you can't. Somehow we have to take a little bit of responsibility for that.
Why couldn't we just put the ordinance on hold and not enforce it right now until we get a better understanding of the situation and look for something to correct it at a minimum cost? You said $25,000, but there was some extra grinding and stuff in there. Look for the actual, absolute minimum cost to do it, and then come back and discuss it. But
I've never heard her put any ordinance on hold.
I don't see how you do that. I don't get to repeal it.
well, can we repeal it for 2 weeks, a month?
Let's let Lance, I would ask that you not enforce it until there's more study and due diligence.
I cannot not enforce it. I will commit to writing warnings. I can't sit here and tell you like, I just will ignore a law. That violates my own code of laws. I can't do it.
Yeah.
It's not, yeah, what you said.
Not my intent to ticket people and cause them problems. I can issue warnings in anticipation of a change.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't the minimum width of a lane 12 feet?
Yeah, that's a question for an engineer. I don't do traffic
I believe that's
engineering.
what it is. So if you move the center line over 4 feet to the south, you would have 12 feet on that side going east, and you would still have 12 feet on the opposite side, and you would still have remaining 8 feet to the curb, which is a parking space. Now, granted, I think we'd say on parking, do we stripe them for 8 feet wide? When we have them down by the post office, the stripe coming out, is it 8 feet, Lance, from the curb out? I believe that's about it. So I think you need to just compromise. I think you need to find a solution. I don't think it's gotta cost you an arm and a leg to do this, but I think you need to investigate it more. Thank you.
I've suggest we beat it to death tonight, we move on.
Yep. Okay. Received the bill list for June 2nd. Any comments on that? If not, I'll move into business. Who would like the ordinance? Can I have a motion to read it by title only?
So moved.
Ian?
Yes.
Yes.
Challenger?
Yes.
Simpson?
Yes?
Becker?
Yes.
Souter?
Yes.
Ordinance number 15-0-2824, second reading. An ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Graft Electric Incorporated, 1370 State Route 14, P.O. Box 22, Columbiana, Ohio 44408, for the furnishing and installation of the replacement generator and the removal of the old generator for the Columbiana wastewater treatment plant.
So moved.
Second.
Any comments?
Got a buyer for the old generator yet?
That was all in one contract.
Challenger?
Yes.
Simpson?
Yes?
Becker?
Yes.
Souter?
Yes.
McBain?
Yes.
Schoniger?
Yes.
Ordinance number 15-0-2825, second reading. An ordinance setting the life insurance benefit and conditions for the mayor and members of council in the city of Columbiana as per charter section 4.13.
So moved. Second.
Any comments? Ian?
Souter?
Yes.
McBain?
Yes.
Schoniger?
Yes.
Challenger?
Yes.
Simpson?
Yes?
Becker?
Yes.
Ordinance number 15-0-2826, first reading. An ordinance amending chapter 1294, section 1260.35, definition of sign, area of subsection A of planning and zoning code of the codified ordinances of Columbiana, Ohio.
So moved.
Second.
Any comments? Ian?
Schoniger?
Yes.
Challenger?
Yes.
Simpson?
Yes.
Becker?
Yes.
Souter?
Yes.
McBain?
Yes.
Is there going to be any action after these?
You think we missed C on our manager's report?
We did that.
No, that's a different section. These are the words that you had referred to in your email.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, okay.
And I was gonna refer that to Suzanne.
Yeah, we received the proposed language on the amendment of those two sections of our sign ordinance. But we have a time concern. Section 1262.15 of our code requires that upon receipt of the planning commission recommendation, council shall forthwith schedule a public hearing. That public hearing has to be conducted within no later than 60 days after receipt, and it has to allow for 30 days for advertising for that public hearing. Since traditionally the receipt of planning commission minutes reflects the receipt of a recommendation, this recommendation, though not complete, because language hadn't been added, as you indicated, it was submitted on May 19th. Yes, May 19th. And that means that the public hearing would have been scheduled prior to July 18th of this year. And we would have had to allow for 30 days in order to publish the notice. Unfortunately, we can't do that because we don't have a meeting on the 7th of July. So I'm going to suggest that planning commission look at this again at its next meeting, kind of start the process over again. And I'm saying that because I have a couple things I'd like to offer as suggestions for your consideration with regard to these two sections. The language that was received included everything that we had proposed initially, but it added the following under the public activity signs. It says the quantity of signs as well as the period of time will be determined each time there is a public activity sign request. This determination will be performed by motion passed by a majority vote of City Council. Additional language says advertising of private business functions are not considered a public activity. And then there was language added to the banner section which said the quantity of time will be set prior to banner placement by motion vote of the majority of the City Council. I have a couple of concerns that I'd like to express to you, and you can do with them as you will. I'm concerned about the practicality of that requirement because it will require each entity wishing to engage in a public activity to come before council. There are churches, schools, clubs, all sorts of public activities that are advertised in this fashion. Now, right now, they can only use one sign, but the proposed change would have been, I think you said 6. And whatever you choose, that's fine. But we had a classic example of this problem last week when I was in Lance's office and a lady came in representing the Relay for Life effort at the track, and she wanted to put up these public activities now. Well, if this law was passed, if this code was changed, she couldn't do it. She has to come here first. And that could prove to be problematic for a lot of these entities. Now, you might say, well, public activities have been brought before this council on previous occasions, and they often are. The big ones are the street fair, Wine Fest. You can name probably, any of you can name probably a half a dozen. They don't come in here primarily because of the signs. They come in here primarily because of the police involvement in the project, and they want to get this council's blessing. And they will continue to do that. And that's not a problem. They come in and you can remind them, simply remind them that they have a sign issue as well. Now, I did include discretion when it came to the pole signs, because we own those. Those are and council should determine when they're to be used. And they would only be used for public events like the street fair or the wine fest. Some big deal. Not the church's bingo game, or the Cub Scouts are having a bake sale someplace. And I just, it's your decision, not mine, but I'm just offering this as a concern. And I'm much more concerned about it when it comes to banners, because the lady that passed out this little pamphlet tonight shows 31 businesses just in a small part of town. We probably got, I don't know how many businesses we've got in town. They all use banners. They all use banners regularly during the year. I don't think you want them coming in here every time they want to put a banner up and asking council, how long can we, how many days can we do it, and how many signs can we use? And then finally, I do have a concern if, for example, business A comes in and says to council, I want to do such and so, and you say, well, okay, you can put one sign up for 10 days. Then the next week, another business comes in and says, I want to do something, and you say to them, well, you can put all 6 signs up for 30 days. You raise some issues there that
bothered me too.
That you may not need to get into, and quite frankly, we've never had a problem with that before. My only concern was it was only one sign, and one sign doesn't work. And the other thing that I was concerned about, and indicated that I was concerned, is the 30-day time limit. I don't know what public activity needs to be advertised for 30 days. And, you could very easily compress this to 5 to 10 days, maybe 15 at the outside, and I think you'd be doing everybody a favor in that regard too. So, those are the suggestions. Do with them what you will. If you leave it the way it is, that's the way it's going to be. That's your choice. But
You're saying you'd like to send this back to planning commission?
it needs to go back to planning commission because of the time factor. So if you send it back the same way, fine, but it's going to have to go back to you. We're going to start it over again because we're going to have a public
So
hearing.
you're wanting a max number of signs and a max number of days etched in stone.
Yeah, so you don't have it, you don't get into what are we gonna do about A, B, and C companies or A, B, and C activity? We like one, we don't like the other. You don't wanna get into that. Even if you're not doing that, some people might think you will. So, but for what it's worth, that's what I thought.
And the reason planning commission did that with coming in front of council was because the planning commission and Augie was there that night and no one knew who would want to field it. So we said if they come in front of council, it's taken care of. It's just as easy.
I'm not sure, it's not something that could be handled by August.
Look,
Those are regulations are
Yeah,
stipulated.
that's fine.
Yeah, had we changed it that way and that lady came in the other day to see Lance, he would have said to her, you can put 6 signs out, you can put them out for, well, you had it for 30 days, but if you make it less, you can put these signs out, and this is where you can put them in appropriate spots. I think she wanted to put them on a square, we kind of frown on that, but otherwise, they do need the signs. And if you recall, this came up because I think springtime in the village, that's a big deal, and it's clearly a public activity. And I drove around town and I saw 10 signs out, and the law says you don't have one.
My recommendation would be at least 21 days, 3 weeks, especially when you're talking about those large signs. I mean, because you're talking,
Well, you frankly were the reason we left the language that we put it
well,
in.
because someone made the mention of 2 weeks, and I was like, it's labor intensive putting them signs up.
We wanted to have the language read 2 weeks, but it was suggested that there may be some that want it longer, and that's why we thought leave it at council's discretion, and someone petitions council for longer, it's at their discretion. That's why that was done.
I would just simply, you pick a number that is a max number. Nobody should do it more, if 3 weeks is fair, it should be no more than 21 days. So, I mean, that would be my thinking if I was on the planning commission. Then there's no discretion abused, or, that's what it is.
I just look at it, you look at the progression of events in Columbiana and using the big signs that the chamber has up. My street fair falls up after the Arts and Crafts Festival, gives them some time to get their signs down, which is about 3 weeks, and then street fair's there. That's where my logic is, and then you go from the 4th to that, with the Wine Fest to the 4th of July. Everything's kind of 3 weeks apart.
Okay. Take care of that next week.
I know it goes back to planning commission probably, but, Joy of Christmas, that's a 6-week event. So we've got Joy of Christmas signs up over almost 8 weeks for that event.
Well, that's already outside our 30 days.
Yes.
Maybe we'll next that parking place.
But it is every week. Every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
For 6 weeks. But you could word it something
You mean
like.
the event renewing itself?
Well, I mean, it does. I mean, it's not like it,
Well, it's a
It is
series
every Friday,
of
Saturday, of course,
events.
during Christmas, then it's every day, but.
Yeah, but if you had an ordinance that said something like you put up a sign 21 days before the start of an event, and the signs have to come down the day after the event or the day of the completion of the event, that would cover that 6-week period.
And that's what it does say that. It says they come down upon the completion of the event.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Anyone have any council comments?
Yes, quickly, if I could, please.
seems Saturday night, about roughly 11:45, midnight, I get a phone call. Lady on the other end says that there's an alarm dropped at the American Legion Post 290. I said, I'll respond. The young lady says, well, who are you? And I told her, and she says, what are you driving? And I told her, and how long will it take you to get there? I said, about 5-6 minutes, and off we go. And I gets out to the American Legion Post, and gosh, there's headlights everywhere. Well, Columbiana's finest responded with 3 cruisers. 3 police officers already had been around the building. And when I opened the door, I'm glad there wasn't anybody in there. Because those fellows, other than the doors that was locked, they couldn't get into, they covered that building instantly. I believe it was most likely a mistake by the lady who was closing up just prior to. But I want to tell you, they did a good job.
Thank you. I'll pass it on, and we do that for all of our merchants, all of our businesses down the line.
They were great. They were right there on the spot.
Thank you.
In fact, I almost didn't have a place to park out there.
As long as it's legally parked.
My wife got a good scare yesterday. We got a new alarm system and ours went off. Yesterday, there was a bad sensor on the new install. And I think it was my 11-year-old called me at work and like, Dad, there are police in our front yard. I said, it's okay, go outside and tell them. It's just you, it was a mistake. As soon as this happened, I guess my wife pulls into the driveway. They followed her right in. Oh, she called me, she says there are police outside and they think I did something wrong.
You pass a sign ordinance like that, you're gonna put all the politicians out of business.
Ain't brought that one up just yet.
We have Facebook for that now, right? I have one I'd like to read. I received this letter the other day. It says, the Columbiana Christian Ministerial Association would like to invite the Columbiana city officials to a picnic on Tuesday, July 28th at 11:30 a.m., Pavilion number 4 at Firestone Park. The purpose of this picnic is to honor and recognize the faithful and excellent leadership of Columbiana. This includes city officials, police, fire, EMS officials, and the Columbiana superintendent and principals. Sincerely, Pastor Chuck Hamilton for the CCMA. Very nice. I'm going to add that to your calendar.
What was the date I get?
July 28th at 11:30 at Pavilion number 4, and everyone from the city is invited. Anything else? Will there be action afterwards? We need a motion to go into executive session for the discussion of acquisition of property and the discussion of pending litigation.
So moved.
Second.
Simpson?
Yeah.
Becker?
Yes.
Sauber?
Yes.
McBain?
Yes.
Helm? Yes.
Katie, motion to adjourn?
So moved.